welcome to the M2 Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Anthony. Thank you for joining us. This is the show where we cover week industry-related, like gaming news, covering the last week of what's been going on. Without further ado, I'm Michael Anthony. This is Kyle Heath. Kyle, what have you been up to, man?
Oh,
What have you
dude.
done in our short week?
Short week for sure. What did I do? I completed Cocoon. I
Oh,
did.
did you now?
Did complete
That's
Cocoon.
good.
Yeah, very solid game, I'd say. I think I used your same kind of tracker. I made my own with your template. I want to say I gave it like maybe an 8.5 or an 8,
An 8.5? Okay.
maybe
Eight's
7.5.
pretty
I
good.
can't remember. It's a good game though.
That's
I
good.
feel like anything like 7 and above is good. So kind of like if it's good, I kind of keep it in that range. But yeah, dude, I don't know, short, sweet, kind of to the point. But I think it's interesting too. I think, I mean, even given it as like a simple game, right? I think there's like if you really look into it and like people, and I'm sure there's things online. I want to look into it if people have come up with some sort of lore because there's really not too much it offers, but there's a lot of like I don't know, maybe like symbolism or something like that, like inside the actual world itself. So I'd be curious to
Okay.
see what people think online. I'll have to like look. But yeah, I think there's again, it's like I don't know, it's a very for me it was a short game, which I felt like I needed, like just kind of a short, like in and out
Yeah,
kind of
you said
game.
it was only like 4 hours or something, right?
Yeah, it was like 4 or 5 hours, I think. Um, but for me, that was like I feel like I've been playing so many games that are like long and huge. It's like to have something just kind of quick that I can check off the list, and was a good time as always. Always welcome. So yeah, and Game Pass. I mean, come on, it's on Game Pass, ladies and gentlemen. Just
That's
hop
a
in
fact.
for free to play it. But yeah, so yeah, fun stuff there. Outside of that, I don't know. I think I did like a little like reading and stuff, but that's not gaming related. So that was kind of the only other thing I really did. Kind of checking the sports scores every now and again for the teams, but it's I don't know. Outside of that, not too much. Not too much else. What about you, Mike? I saw you playing the finals.
Dude, that's all I've been playing. Like I was playing waiting for you to get on.
Yeah, I was late
So,
today, so
yeah, no worries. I've been getting pretty good at the game. I've been mixing around playing a different class. I usually play as a medium, but I've been playing as heavy just to switch up the rules and get a little bit more variety in the playtime. And it's been a lot of fun. Like we're getting pretty good, and it's only the two of us as a duo running through and just kind of carrying our fourth, or like it's either we're carrying them and we barely sneak through a win, or we sometimes get like a decent third
okay.
that actually knows how to
Okay.
play, and we end up winning pretty easily. So it's been a lot of fun, and yeah, that's really all I've been playing, man. Like did I tell you about how my PlayStation controller was messing up?
I don't think so. Oh,
So yeah, I'll briefly talk about that because I learned why. Well, at least I think I know why. So I have a PS4 DualSense controller, the DS4 controller,
yeah.
and the to use like to play Xbox games using a PlayStation controller on the PC, you have to download something called a DS4 Windows, which is basically configuring your PlayStation into an Xbox 360 or an Xbox Microsoft device so that you can like play Xbox games, obviously.
Yeah.
It's like an emulator. Well, apparently like hidden in the features, there is this thing called like enable DualSense support, and for whatever reason my program turned it off. Now, while it was turned off, I was having issues with the joystick basically like tugging up. Does that make sense? It was
Huh.
like I would try to aim and it would get
Yeah.
jittery, but it would only go vertical. So it was like I was
Oh,
getting recoil just trying to aim, but I wasn't shooting. And it was
that's
like
interesting.
it was really weird. So I turned it on and I stopped playing with the PS4. I haven't tried it with the PS4, so I don't know if it's necessarily the controller or the program, but I think it's the program because I plugged in the PS5 Edge controller and I wasn't having any issues. So that was
Yeah.
good to know.
Huh. That's really
Yeah,
weird. Yeah.
it's very odd,
Um, yeah. I've
but
used DS for
yeah.
Windows before because I way back when a couple of years ago when I didn't have really any other controllers, I was using a PS4 controller, and I remember I had to download that at the time. It was like the only way to
Yeah.
get the controller to work on PC. So
Yeah, well there's other programs now. There's something called DSX. It's on Steam. And I had to well, I bought that and downloaded it when I first got the PS5 Edge because DS4 Windows didn't have support for the PS5 Edge controller. So it's like,
Interesting.
well, I want to use this as quickly as possible. So what do I have to do? And then I saw, I think it was like $5. I'm like, what's $5? I mean, this is $190 controller. Like, what's
Yeah.
$5?
Yeah, literally.
So yeah, I went ahead and did that. And then like about a month or so later, whoever makes DS4 was like, oh yeah, there's an update. Check it out.
Yeah, it's
And
free.
now it works. Yeah, it's free.
It's funny. Yeah, dude.
So hey,
Doesn't Steam have like a controller thing now where you can like map any controller?
yes,
There's
they do.
yeah.
Yeah.
When I used
Yeah.
it, like I think like late last year, mid last year, last time I was messing around with it, I saw that. But yeah, so cool stuff, dude.
Yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's really good. There is, I think it's called Steam Controller Support, and it emulates any controller device you
Yeah.
have. But when you're playing Xbox games on like the Xbox app or pretty much any other program, other like sometimes you can have old Vista games and be playing on there, you have to use DS4 Windows or some other type of emulator.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes
it
sense,
is what
man.
it is.
Makes sense. Windows, Windows, Windows.
Yes, sir. But you want to go in like straight into the news because I don't
Yeah,
have any
dude.
other games I played, man.
Yeah, look, I only played one too. We're sticking with our guns, all right? Is what it
It's a
is.
fact.
But let's talk about this. All right, so I picked this as the first article, Mike. I'm kind of reading through our list because I think
I think
we've been talking
it's a
so
good
much
tie
about
back.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, exactly. It's a good, nice little thread to talk about preservation. It is a pretty lengthy article. I'm not going to read everything. And it I am there's a couple points I was reading earlier. I kind of want to jump around on. Just talking about because really this is like talking about who's actively trying to like kind of remake games or like preserve kind of the older games where
Right.
source code probably isn't available or there's some other barriers that just prevent anyone from remaking the games. So talk a little bit. I'll start off at the top. This is from Tech Radar. Ki Han Chan. I hope I said your name right. I'm gonna go with that. Great article post. So anyways, I'm gonna start off the top. I'm gonna read the first couple. I gotta set it up. So I'm gonna read the first couple paragraphs. A staggering 87% of classic games released in the US are at risk of being lost in time, particularly with a low availability of these games across platforms, according to a study by the Video Game History Foundation. Even as the massive cultural impact of video games dwarfs the music and film industry, with the games industry valued at over $300 billion, it still feels like video games are shambling towards demise. When it comes to preservation, some companies aren't ready to ensure long-term access to their old library of games. In 2022, Epic shut down online services to 17 older games, which renders all of the classic Unreal games, including Unreal Tournament 3, Unreal Gold, and Unreal 2 The Awakening, effectively unplayable. That is, unless you already own the game. Then there's Nintendo's vehemently anti-preservation decisions, with the entertainment behemoth ceasing sales of 1,000 digital-only games from its Wii U and 3DS online store, thus removing legal access to these games. That means if you wish to play these games today, fans may have to resort to old-fashioned piracy.
Yeah, and Nintendo's not a fan of that. I did like how he said, thus removing legal. That's the key word, the
Yeah.
legal access to the games because you can
Yep.
find it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the thing. It's it's kind of messed up, but like it's kind of funny how it's like you can still find it. It's like it's not technically lost, but I mean legally,
Yeah, Nintendo will come after you like LimeWire came after people back in the day.
yeah, start
Or,
suing people for trillions.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Oh man, those lawsuits were funny. Okay, luckily there are still developers out there who aren't deterred as they look to tackle the thorny field of game preservation by actively saving legacy games. Some are even developing their own proprietary engine so that these games can be played on modern systems. So again, there's a couple different kind of use cases or devs that they kind of showcase in the article. One of them is Digital Eclipse, which from what I read is they specialize in making emulators for like arcade games, so you can play like older arcade style games. That's pretty interesting stuff. They kind of talk about that a little in depth. The one that really caught my eye was kind of the next studio they talked about. So there's Night Dive Studios. In the same game, the American developer also has a proprietary engine that drives its preservation efforts, the Kex engine. But its approach differs slightly from Digital Eclipse's vision, which was talked about earlier in the article with arcade emulation. For a start, the engine is what the studio founder and CEO Stephen Kick describes as the backbone of all their remastering efforts. we can more or less, this is where it gets kind of interesting for me, is we can more or less wrap the source code in the engine, which enables us to change just about anything we want, adding stuff like widescreen mouse look in the case of System Shock, accessibility options, controller inputs, rendering devices so that we can port the game to various consoles, that sort of thing. Night Dev Studios wants to revive classic games it loves, including abandonware games, games that are no longer published or supported by the creators, and introduce them to the new generation of players. After all, Night Dive Studios was founded when Kick discovered that he couldn't purchase System Shock 2, which was unavailable back in 2012. The re-release of System Shock 2 eventually became the developer's first title. It was just basically a list of games that I had played with my dad that I wanted to have back out there again. And so this is what like the studio, cool. The studio head was just like, yeah, like I don't know, these games aren't, if these games aren't here anymore, like let's see what we can try to do to bring them back. Which is wild to think about. Like you just kind of like, I want to play these games again, kind of have a general idea of how it all works, so let's try and go after it.
That's pretty inspirational. I like that.
Yeah, very cool stuff. Yeah, this goes on a little bit more, kind of more detail. Going down into the article a little bit more, they talk about they talk about a studio limited run games. So this is another studio that's set up preserving the industry's vast legacy by producing physical versions of classic games. To the studio, the act of creating physical media of games can complement preservation efforts, particularly in a landscape where digital games are just as swiftly released as they are lost in time. My cat is tearing up something in the background. Anyways, the big thing about physical games that is important to me is the actual ownership of it. Says Josh Fairhust, the CEO of Limited Run Games. When you buy a game digitally, which we've talked about, you don't actually own the game. You have a license to download the game, install it, play it, but that license can be revoked at any time if the platform holders decide that, for whatever reason, they can't continue allowing the game to be downloaded. To facilitate this process, Limited Run Games also has its own engine, the Carbon engine, to help publishers release their old library of games cost efficiently and with ease. Like Night Dive Studios' Kex engine, Carbon engine also allows various simulators, which include that of legacy consoles, to be used with modern hardware, but it's one that Limited Run Games believes would be easy to use. So it's like, this studio is coming out here and saying, look, we're willing to help you people out there bring these games back at a low cost effort that would be efficient, won't take up too much time. I mean, like, and the thing is, I think the biggest barrier would probably be legal stuff, right? But it's like, I think if you find the source code and, you go to people like this, they can probably help a lot of studios bring back some of these older games.
Yeah, I think this is a really good idea. The preservation of games is going to be a hot topic, I think, in the coming years. Just because everything, like they said, and what we've been saying for the longest time, it's like you don't actually own the games anymore. You just have the license to download it and play it while it's on the servers or whenever it's being held by the platform so that you can play it.
Yeah.
It's very odd.
Yeah, it is very odd. For sure. So I'll read a couple more paragraphs towards the end here. I'm talking about some of the challenges here. So this section is called an uphill battle. The challenges of game development are well documented. Part of the significant obstacles faced by these preservation-focused studios is a whole lot of sleuthing, hunting down studios or individuals who own the copyrights, unraveling the source codes of these games, and simply looking for any remnants of the original game in physical form. These copyrights can be a legal minefield and may not even extend to parts of the game such as music, soundtrack, and even voice acting. Then there's the issue of crucial paperwork from decades ago was simply not digitized. Some of the records are contracts that we've never been able to find because they're stored in a box and maybe someone's garage or the basement of a building someplace. Some of these people are describing. Source codes, too, can also be poorly preserved or lost by the original developers themselves. Yep. But sometimes we don't get access to the original source code for the game, and so in those scenarios, we'll have to reverse engineer the object code or basically what was shipped on the disk. That is, can you imagine? Dude. Thinking of from a developer perspective, you're essentially getting a bunch of compiled code and you're trying to reverse engineer from what you're able to kind of get, which it's possible, but in some cases it's not even worth the effort.
or just like sometimes it's just not possible. I mean, a good example of this just off the top of my head. I know I've mentioned it before on the podcast, maybe a couple of seasons ago, about how Halo 2, they don't have the source code for Halo 2 anymore, which is why every iteration of Halo 2, except for the version that's on the original Xbox, is an emulation. It's not the true version of Halo 2.
That's
It's like the
wild.
PC version, Halo 2 Project Cartographer is a modded version of Halo 2 Vista. That is not the same as the classic version on the original Xbox. The MCC
Oh,
version is Halo 2 Vista modded even more for the Master Chief Collection. And then when they did the Halo 2 Anniversary Edition, that's actually the Halo 4 reskinned to look like Halo 2. It's like wild how that happened.
man.
So who knows? I'm sure that they're just probably the biggest example I can think of because Halo, everybody knows Halo.
Right, yeah.
I'm curious what other games like they just don't know where the original source code is.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that? Like
I
creating a
mean,
masterpiece and then forgetting
it's just
to
wild, man.
to like it's insane. You know what's actually you know what? Sidetracked. Completely sidetracked right now. You know they don't have the original like moon landing videos?
Do they is that really?
They they accidentally taped over it
No way.
at
That's nuts.
NASA, yeah. Yeah, so the only footage you can find is recordings of people that recorded the live broadcast that
Oh my
happened,
god.
yeah, on, like, live television. Those are the only recordings,
It's
which is
insane.
nuts. So,
Yeah.
you can get your tinfoil hat on if you didn't know that.
Yeah.
Is it
That's
real? No.
yeah, literally.
I'm
Uh,
just let's stick back to video
I
games here, so
mean,
it's like
yeah.
it's human error, like, just not remembering to keep the original source material,
Yeah.
source
Well,
code,
it's
source material, and stuff like that.
you know, I mean, and that's the thing too. For like at a studio like Bungie, right? Like you would imagine or you would think that that was probably like, oh, like all the source code and stuff. We should probably store that somewhere secure, and
Yeah, no
then
kidding.
you ain't gonna lose. I mean, yeah, it's wild that Halo was affected by that. It's like you're saying, that's a very large IP. So
Yeah,
absolutely
it
crazy.
happens for sure, so it's like, going back to what you said, sometimes it's just impossible or, like you said, not worth the time to try to reverse engineer the source codes, and maybe, like, I guess you gotta get lucky, like, you're cracking the code to figure out how the game was built.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be part of it. Um, yeah. The article goes a little more. He talks about um, they talk about you need the source code access to ensure the game can continue to be ported or brought to
Yep.
new hardware. If another developer comes along and says we're willing to put the money into port, one of the problems is that that is often encountered, which some of these devs are finding, is that the source code just gets lost or forgotten because it just wasn't thought of.
It
So
doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
yeah,
Somebody deleted it, or it's on like an old hard drive from 20 years ago,
yeah,
buried in like landfill or something.
probably yeah. Um, But for digital clips, the most pertinent challenge is in the details. Fixing code that doesn't quite work on modern platforms, making slight tweaks at the same to the so that the game is much more accessible, and determining whether bugs require squashing or a unique characteristic of games of games at that time. It's a tightrope to tread, so as to not diminish the cultural context of these legacy games, including their quirks and oddities. That's also something to think about too. Yeah, like a lot of older games, like there's a lot of that stuff that or like a lot of stuff that were maybe like bugs or like maybe weren't intended that just happened,
Oh
and then it was like, oh, that's like
yeah,
part of the game. So if you get rid of that or if you try to fix it, like you kind of ruin it.
yeah.
Makes
It's very
sense.
weird. It's like back then it was a lot of the games that they're probably like bringing up to the forefront are really old games, and when you had the physical copy of those games, it was like the impurities, like the imperfectness, if that's even such a word, of the game makes it more perfect.
Yeah.
It makes sense when you don't think about it, but, like, when it's, like, more of an art piece and you can see that, like, the devs kinda messed up, but it added a little bit more flair. Like,
Yeah.
bug glitches in something as simple as, like, Super Mario,
Yeah.
64 when you're, like, glitching through the walls and, like, speed running.
Right, yeah.
breaking the game. Yeah,
Yeah.
stuff like that. It makes things interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know if this like context really fits in like bugs or anything like that, but like we were on the topic of Halo 2, and like you showed me kind of all the nuance of that game, and
Oh
kind of
Jesus,
like
there's
all
so
the
many.
and all like the why like the YYs
Button
and like all
glitches shouldn't
the
be there. Yeah,
like, but
button
it just
glitches
kind
shouldn't be
of
there.
it makes the game like Halo 2 though, because
Oh yeah.
it's the uniqueness of that game. So
And
yeah,
that game had Xbox Live though, so they actually patched a lot of crazy stuff. You used to be able to fly across the entire map. So long as like when you're sniping, you can actually zoom in and your reticle turns red. So if your reticle's red, then you can literally fly to them. It was insane.
that's
Like
nuts.
in the middle, you could do that for like the first like 2 or 3 years of the game. Wild
Yeah,
stuff, man. They
it's
they
nuts.
patched it and stuff. And but I mean, if you got the OG Xbox, you can delete the patch.
I was to say, and load up the
Go,
load up the
yeah,
game,
yeah, go
dude.
load up the game and have fun.
I have Halo 2 somewhere on this shelf up here, so I'll just get an OG Xbox, hook it up, don't patch
Oh
it,
yeah,
and I'll just
seriously, dude.
uh
Yeah,
See,
it's
now I'm
pretty sick.
glad. I'm glad I have OG Halo 2 now. It's like whenever I actually do play it,
Oh
it's gonna
yeah,
hit.
man.
It's gonna hit.
You know
I'll
what's
get to
actually
experience the actual Halo.
the sad thing that's gonna happen is 20 years from now. I want to say about 20 years from now, sometimes less. The consoles are gonna start like frying, and you won't have the hardware
Oh
to
yeah,
actually play your physical copy games anymore, and that's going to be another hurdle to deal with.
yeah,
There is some like there's like some emulators and stuff like that. You can get the digital copies, and it's still the same for a lot of like old school games to get around that, but it just won't be the same, man. It won't be the same as loading up that old retro console and getting that CRTV and plugging
yeah,
it in.
yeah. I mean that's true. I mean, all those components have a lifespan, right? So it's like
They
definitely
do.
something to keep in mind. Especially like if you're building with like capacitors and stuff like that. Like, um, I mean, luckily those are relatively simple to replace, but then most
They
people
are
don't.
cheap too.
Yeah. Most people probably wouldn't, but like for me, like I'm certainly if I'm getting a console, I'm doing everything I can to just keep it alive as long as I can, make sure it's
Yeah.
good. And especially what's nice too is the older consoles, you're not dealing with like thermal paste or anything like that. Like Xbox, you obviously are, but like
Yeah.
some of the older ones, you don't necessarily have to worry about that.
No, they're
Um,
all like cartridges and like really low voltage and stuff like
yeah,
that. Very digital.
yeah. Let's think
Works.
too. I mean, yeah, at least I think at least for a decent while, like a lot of these retro consoles, at least like the Xboxes and the 360 and stuff like that, they should last for quite a while. Like you have to replace the thermal paste every, probably like 5-10 years. But
It depends on the thermal paste. If you pull out the old OG Xbox, it's basically cemented on.
yeah.
It's
Oh
like
yeah.
impossible to take it off. It's wild.
Yeah. I've
Uh,
seen disassemblies. It's crazy.
it's yeah. The only way to get the heat sinks off of the original Xbox is you have to unstrap everything. Like you have to take off the brackets and stuff,
Yeah.
and you have to turn it on, and you have to
Just
let
let it
the
heat.
heat.
Yeah.
You have to let it heat. Otherwise, like it's for real. Just it's super glued on. Gorilla glued on. You can't
Yeah.
not pull it off. It's
Or you could
wild.
be very careful with like a hot air
No
rework
shot.
station and just knee over the thermal.
Nah, just turn on the Xbox, let it run. Turn on the
Something.
Xbox and turn off like put your finger on the fan so it won't blow out the heat.
So it'll dissipate. That's
Oh
funny.
yeah, it'll go off for sure.
It'll cook. But yeah, that was pretty much it for that article. But just kind of a thing of like, there's still people out there trying to, make a conscious effort to preserve games, even if it's not necessarily like having a physical copy of a game. Although I will say, I kind of hope that like we see, more companies and stuff come up that try to preserve, like try to recreate kind of the old cartridges and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
I've seen like Kick efforts and to like, whether it's Kick or the startup sites, like I've seen efforts where to bring like where they created like a NES game or something like that, and it's actual physical media, which is kind of
Oh
cool to
yeah.
see. So
Oh yeah, you can still people still do that. They're still like people that are just getting into video games and that's their passion of like making them and they're a developer. A lot of them will make them on cartridges for like the N64 because it's such a good opportunity to just like test it out and try it and see what you can create.
yeah,
It's like such a good idea.
yeah. It's cool, man. Like it'd be interesting to see if at some point like people would just like if they came up with an idea for like an older style game, they could just like make it and like just
Yeah.
reverse engineer the hardware and figure out how to program for it. Be kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think this is going to be really good too because if you can get into the market where this becomes successful, because these guys are basically pioneers in a new market, right? And if this becomes successful for them, then you'll actually start seeing, my guess is you'll actually start seeing the the main manufacturers like Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo think to themselves, you know what, maybe we should bring back physical mediums again because they're like selling on the third party network. It's like this is a good idea. There's
Yeah.
money to be made here. And then you can actually have like the proprietary hardware again.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool.
Be sick, man. It'd be cool one day to just be like, hey, or just do like, I don't know necessarily like a limited run, but just be like, hey, we could just like manufacture a batch of these consoles or these kind of games again. That'd be kind of sick. Like I know
You know what
reprints
would
are,
sell?
pretty rare, but
Oh my gosh, you know what would sell like hotcakes?
tell me.
Like, dude, an N64 anniversary edition that can
Are
play
you kidding me?
all previous Nintendo games. Like
Ooh!
cartridge, like the Switch, the N64
Oh,
itself, like Wii
the
U,
ultimate console.
GameCube. I mean, that's one
Oh,
in the two.
how big that
Like,
would be, the ultimate
and the
console.
Switch. It wouldn't need to be that big, I don't think.
I mean, yeah. Well, like if you're
Like the
emulating,
Switch
yeah.
is well, like yeah, the Switch is I think better than all of them. Like,
Yeah,
and it's
it's true.
still like the little cartridge just, dude, it's like freaking flash drive. It's so small.
Literally. Yeah, dude. I mean, the whole
Yeah,
thing is copyright law, which is just like
that's a fact.
it
Yeah,
gets in the way of everything, man. Which is
and
unfortunate.
region lock too. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
region
too.
locking. Oh man, thank
Oh,
God. So just well, all the consoles didn't deal with that, but yeah, it's crazy.
oh my god, I'm glad we got away from that. Mostly,
Most.
mostly got away from that. That actually, that can be one of the positives we say. I know we're about to move on, but that could be one of the
Yeah,
positives is that we don't have region locking anymore.
yeah.
Not
Especially as
not in the year
good as it was.
2024.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. Like even though cartridge based like consoles, like it's so funny. Was it the N64 or no? I think it was the Super Nintendo that had region locking, but it was like the cartridge was just shaped differently. So like
Oh
you'd
yeah,
have to just get
N64 too.
you would
Yeah.
have to just like get like either shave out the pin that would stop it from going in. Like to remove
Yep.
the region locking, it's a physical like you have to adjust
It's a
something on
physical
the
lock, yeah.
yeah.
It's madness.
It's
So
just
I
funny.
know a bunch of like retro guys that were going across to Japan and buying the old school games because they have massive stores where they're everywhere and they're cheap.
Oh yeah.
And they would buy them, come home, and they're like, "Damn, I have to go out and buy like an N64 from Japan now
Yeah.
because it was region locked."
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's side note, it's one of my bucket list items to go to Japan and shop for old retro stuff. Especially like gaming stuff because they just have so much like things over there.
I would go with you. That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah. I would do that for days, literally. There's like I forget the name of the store. I think it's like I don't have to look it up. I forget the name, but it's like they have a specific like brand of store. Maybe it's like a book something like Book Up or something like that. It's like there's a specific store name though that like they're all over
Is it like a
Japan.
chain too?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's like
okay.
a chain, and they're all over Japan. But they always sell like old retro consoles. I think even broken stuff. Like they'll sell everything, and it's like super cheap. Like we're talking GameCubes for like $20. Like it's wild.
Dude. Say no more,
So
fam. I'm on the way.
it's
It's totally
crazy.
worth the like $3,000 ticket to get there.
I need a suitcase and an extra one on the way back. You know what I'm saying?
That's buy one when we get there.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just gonna buy a second one. It's crazy.
Yeah, save money in the long run.
You know, it's about to be buying
Huh.
multiple suitcases without any thought of having to worry about money.
If Optic can win this lawsuit that they're doing. So this article actually came out what last week? Had to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah, about a week ago. This is coming from Game Industry Biz. The writer is Brendan Sinclair. I don't think we've actually covered him before, but this topic, think it went like mini viral on Twitter for a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
It's pretty nuts.
it's just it is wild. I think it's a sign of good things to come. Holy crap, that is a very young formal in that picture.
It really
See
is.
that? I didn't even recognize him. Wild.
Oh, shoot.
All right. So the title of this article is Optic Texas CEO and players, and player sue Activision alleging Call of Duty League monopoly. Publisher accused of anti-competitive practices and charging extraordinary $27.5 million entry fees to teams, steering owners to give up teams to billionaire investors.
Crazy.
Sheesh.
Yeah. I think it was
My
extortionate.
goodness.
Am I thinking that?
Extortionate?
Extortionate?
Yeah, I don't.
I don't know. I have no idea.
If you're using the word extortion, there's like a legal definition of that. You got to prove that in a court of law. Yeah, we'll see how this goes. So, starting at the top of the article, it's kind of short. The CEO and former star player of the Call of Duty League team, Optic Texas, filed a lawsuit against Activision Blizzard yesterday, accusing the publisher of wielding an unlawful monopoly over professional Call of Duty leagues and engaging in anti-competitive and extortionate, thank you, extortionate behavior to the detriment of players and teams. As reported by Bloomberg Law, the suit was brought by Hector Hex Rodriguez and Seth Scump Abner and accuses Activision Blizzard of laying down the foundation of a monopoly in January of 2016 by acquiring Major League Gaming, eliminating what would have been the biggest competitor to the Activision-owned Call of Duty Esports League. That is a fact.
Mm.
That is a fact. Activision Blizzard basically went out, bought Major League Gaming, bought game battles, all this other stuff that was so popular online, and Major League tournaments, and yeah, they just said, nah, no more. We're doing league-based games. We're gonna do franchise tags, and we're gonna. I mean, let's just get into it because I know that's what this is about to dive into, and you know how I feel about it. So the suit says Activision refused to grant licenses to other tournaments and league organizers, so that its eventual Call of Duty League would be the only game in town. Then it limited the league to 12 teams and demanded $27.5 million entry fee from any would-be team, along with an Activision-approved corporate partner, facts, for any teams owned by individuals. That last term became an issue with Rodriguez when he tried to become an independent team owner in the late 2020 by buying Immortals Gaming Club's slot in the league. My man got screwed over.
Dude.
This is gonna be nuts. I feel so bad for Optic, and I mean he at least got his team back, but this is obviously going to go down the history of what happened. So Activision told Rodriguez it would never allow him to own and operate a team on his own. The suit says. On a conference call, one Activision executive explicitly told Rodriguez that he was not the type of owner Activision wanted for the league. Activision made clear to Rodriguez that he would be required to partner with billionaire investors who looked like Activision's ideal or leave the professional Call of Duty market altogether.
What?
That is freaking wild, and it makes a ton of sense for what happened to Hex, dude.
Wow. That's insane.
Yikes, man. Yikes.
Ain't no ways how they coming at Hex like that, dude. No way.
I mean, dude, the freaking gall to be an Activision Blizzard executive telling Hex he isn't the type of owner Activision Blizzard needs when Activision in the background with Blizzard had sexual assault allegations going on, had terrible things like horrible harassment in the workplace. Proven, by the way, in lawsuits, people lost their jobs. Like, dude, the freaking like, oh, I don't even want to say it. I don't want to get too much into it, but that was insane. And then, of course, like, what, a year later, Microsoft's like, we can get a sale on this. And they just bought them out.
Easy 69, Billy.
Yeah, it's insane.
Dude, it's,
all right.
It's nuts out here, man. There's just so much. That's such like a loaded statement, I feel like, of them just saying, like, you don't look like the type of owner we want. Like, what do you say?
I mean, at the time, I don't think Hex is really that old. He might be, what, 35, 36? He's a young guy. Yeah. So it might just been like elitism because he's a gamer. Oh, he's 44. Okay, so he's a little bit older than I was expecting.
Okay.
Yeah, so in 2016, he would have been 44, so that would be, what, 30? Around 32? I think that's how math works. That's a young owner, but if it's like...
Nah, he'd be 30, 36? No.
36?
37.
Okay.
Minus 8, right?
Fly, to be honest.
Minus 8, yeah. It's minus 8 because it's 2016. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's just... I don't think it's an age thing. And hopefully it's not, like, because of his race, too.
That's why I'm saying, like, is it loaded in that sense? Like, it just does not come off right at all. Like, no. It's just... I don't like it.
No, but I am 100% taking his side on this. Just because of Activision being...
I mean, dude...
Like, all the reputations that they have.
I mean, yeah, and this is the thing, man. Like, Hex knows what he's doing, dude. Like, do they not understand the size of Optic and what they've done in the space that, like... it's like, you know, that is esports? Just nuts.
I think the best thing about Optic, they started off as like a community driven, like they were just a community that created a YouTube channel that
Yeah.
became successful,
The
and then
trick
they started
shotting
branching.
thing.
Yeah,
It's
trick shotting, like having fun, like
yeah.
just doing cool stuff, and then they branched out to other games. It became successful in other games and other leagues on MLG,
Like they
and
were the
then
first. I mean, we're talking about like especially old days Optic. That was like the first team to really like actually showed people that like if you're good at video games, you can make a career out of it. That's where like
oh yeah,
Nadeshot and Scumpy and like all these
oh
people have
yeah,
just launched to stardom. It's like it's if you're
yes,
good and you make content and you are consistent about it and you know get like brand deals and stuff like that, you can make a very good living out of this.
yeah.
So, so it's
Like another good example of an organization that did that very thing around the same exact time is FaZe.
yep,
Say what you will about FaZe Clan, but they did the same thing. They always concentrated on content creation first in their localized community, and then they branched out to have an esports team. It's like that's the perfect way to do it.
yeah,
If you're going to do an esports team, you have to have a content creation team. So to me, Optic has always been content creation.
yeah,
And now they just win tournaments occasionally. That's what
yeah,
it was for me. Uh,
yeah.
but I've just been following them forever.
It's yeah, it's that good media, man. It's like it's crazy because like for me, it's like Nate Shot, like he was definitely more like content guy, and he was like, and he grew such a huge following just based off
Yes.
content. Like he was a great player, but like content's where he shined. But then you got someone like Scumpy, who was like Scump was. We're talking
Like,
about someone who's insanely, disgustingly good at the game, and he's
yes.
also entertaining and makes good
That
content. It's like
that is
the,
so rare.
he would, yeah,
So
exactly.
rare
Which
to
is
have.
why I feel like he was like one of the reasons Optic rose to like just you know
Oh
insane
yeah.
heights. I feel like was because like you just get someone like him. He's so unique and like just kind of like a he's just so like special in that regard of being both good and at you know actually playing Call of Duty and just being a good
Yeah.
creator. So it's kind of wild.
Yeah, I mean, and not just Call of Duty either. It's like Optic also had a stranglehold on the Halo market for a while too.
Yeah,
They were just going back and forth. It was like really, really interesting how that played off, and a lot of that had to do with Formal
yeah,
and just a couple other like Halo content creators that noticed that like MLG and Halo weren't really working out anymore, so they moved over to Call of Duty, and
yeah.
then that became like the Call of Duty league also bursted from there, and it's just got bigger and bigger. So, but how about we get back
Yeah.
into the article here?
Let's do it.
So the suit says the company of those investors, NV Gaming, demanded a 92.5% ownership share in Optic, leaving Rodriguez with the choice of relinquishing control of the team or undermining its value by dropping its Call of Duty team, which is, he would never do that. So what ended up happening in Heck's words, and I hope this article goes into it, but after he relinquished basically the controlling part of the team to NV Gaming, they subsequently started pushing Rodriguez out and like forced him out of making decisions. And
So
eventually he just ended up having to leave.
yeah,
Then he had a redemption arc, came back and took it back over, but that
yeah.
was years later, dude.
Dude, I don't know if anyone like how many people would actually remember this. But like, and maybe this is just like a Mandela effect, and I'm just like making this up in my head. But I swear there was a period where Hex ended up signing with like I think it was like NRG, and he was going to be like like one of the leads on NRG. But then like that was very short lived, obviously. But like I swear, I feel like
Hmm.
I remember him like making an
Like in
announcement with like
spite?
I think it was like an announcement like NRG like after the optic stuff went down. I could be wrong, but I swear like someone had to fact check me, but I swear I thought I remember seeing a post of him like he's joining NRG. I think it was NRG, and then like now obviously
Nobody
like
mentioned
optics
it.
where it is. Yeah, it just kind of didn't work. But I thought it was funny when I
Yeah.
heard that announcement at the time. I was like, wait, what? Like he's going to NRG? It's crazy, crazy times.
I yeah, I don't remember that to be honest. But I'll take your
I
word
want to
for it
say it
if
was
you remember.
NRG. It was like a weird like org that you wouldn't expect. He was just like, oh, I'm joining this and leading everything here. And then, yeah,
Hmm. Good to know. Okay, so continuing on, the suit also noted the league's competitive balance tax as a wage suppression technique, something the U.S. Department of Justice agreed with its sued Activision Blizzard, or went with it with as what? Wait, hold on. Something the U.S. Department of Justice agreed with as it sued Activision Blizzard last year over the issue. Am I saying that wrong? It just seems like whatever. I'm skipping that
yeah,
altogether. Let's start over. The suit also noted that the league's competitive balance tax as a wage suppression technique and aggressive tactics used on players like Abner, who it says were pressured to agree to legal documents while at a photo shoot without being given time to review them or seek legal input under threat, in quotes,
Yikes.
under threat of being excluded from the Activision COD League absent immediate acquiescence. Wait, was it acquiescence? Acquiescence?
This is
Acquiescence
crazy. Dude, what
to
are
his
we
terms?
doing? Like, what are we doing here?
Not
We're just like making them sign a contract. Like,
basic.
here's a contract. Oh, by the way, you don't have enough time to read it. Just sign it, please.
Basically, the way this works, and some people don't know this, when you're a major team, like your top 8 team, and you're going to these tournaments, whether it's Call of Duty, Overwatch, Valorant, CS:GO, when you get to the event, you arrive a couple of days early, and they do photo shoots for you for the promos of the live event for like people that are there, so they can put up your banners and stuff, but also like on the streams and stuff. So they brought Scump out and they were like, "Okay, cool. Just so you take your pictures and stuff like that, you have to sign these legal documents, by the way. Oh, I know you don't have time to review it, but I mean, like, you'll be fine. Just sign it real quick."
It's
That's
like,
just that's so
it's
predatory.
so slimy. I like that.
Super slimy. So the plaintiffs also note Activision's rules for teams and players severely restricted their ability to earn compensation, sponsorships, and streaming money except through Activision. That is very true. Major League Gaming
Crazy.
had a similar rule, man. When you made your team for the Major League Gaming like pro circuit and you made like basically at least top 12 team, the rights of your team were signed with Major League Gaming. So you did not have the rights to use your own logos, which is freaking
That's
nuts.
gross. What are we
Super
doing?
gross.
What are we doing?
So like all the merch would go towards like Activision Blizzard in this case. Nuts.
Sporting teams, that's nuts.
So here we go. From a quote in the suit, it says Activision's interested decisions and failure to innovate or maintain the quality of Activision COD League were possible only because of the total lack of competition in the professional Call of Duty market, which Activision could not have been able to accomplish but for its unlawful monopoly power. The plaintiffs are seeking more than $680 million in damages between the various causes of action, as well as legal fees. Optic Texas is scheduled to play the Los Angeles Thieves this Sunday. Holy smokes, dude.
It's already
It's
happened.
absolutely
It's crazy.
insane. $680 million in damages over various causes. I get that. I don't know about the number, 600 million, but I think they can definitely win this suit.
Get something, yeah.
Hopefully.
Just to confirm, I did a quick Google while you were like finished up the article.
Okay.
I'm gonna show it to the camera, but Hex officially joins NRG following Optic Gaming exit. This is from September of 2019. He says former Optic Gaming CEO Hector Hex Rodriguez has confirmed his next venture in the esports industry, officially joining NRG as co-CEO. This is again September 16th of 2019 is when he announced that. Dude, that's like 5 years ago, which is crazy. That was like, it's wild. It's like I remembered like the video of that. I was just like, what? Like it was just so crazy after he left Optic. But now we back on top,
dude.
baby.
It's so crazy, man. Here's an update from the article that was posted a couple days after this came out. An Activision Blizzard representative responded to the request for comment and said that Hex and Scump demanded that Activision pay tens of millions of dollars to avoid their meritless litigation, and when their demands were not met, they filed. We will strongly defend against these claims. We have no basis in fact or in law, which have no basis in fact or law. We are disappointed with these members of the esports community who would bring this suit, which is disruptive to team owners, players, fans, partners who have invested so much time and energy in the Call of Duty League success. Dude, that is the most lawyer thing ever.
Is it a success though, Mike? Let's talk about it. You know what I'm saying?
All right, yeah, let's talk
Mike.
about it. Okay, so you're charging per team, what was it, 27 or 23.5 million?
20
Yeah,
something.
27.5 million
Too much.
per. Just do the math. How many partner teams are there in this franchise league? 12 teams. Let's do this. Okay. 27.5 times 12 is $330 million. Okay.
Wow.
That is the initial first season. All right. I'm not even going to look it up, but do you think they've given out $330 million with the prize money.
Nah. Who we capping?
So where's the money going?
Who we capping?
Where's the money going?
It's lining pockets, Mike. That's what it's doing, baby.
Yeah, no duh. It's the
Lining
same. This is why franchise leagues owned by the developer is such BS, dude. Such BS. And never mind the fact that these like teams, the 27.5 million is just to get into the league. You're buying for a spot in the league. That doesn't include any travel costs. Is the league paying for that? I doubt it. Are they paying for the salaries of the players? Like,
No.
how likely is that? So it's going to come down to a he said, she said, because this is all contract talk. So
Oh yeah, always.
It's very frustrating.
You already know we're standing in the corner of the boys. You know,
Of
gotta
course,
get
man.
through this.
You gotta
Make
get rid
this
of franchise leagues, I think. This is
Yeah.
BS.
What happened to OWL? I rest my case. You know what I'm saying, Mike?
Yeah, that's a fact.
Oh man,
It's one of the biggest blunders in all of esports.
it's upsetting.
Could have been so great.
And then OWL dies. Activision Blizzard lays off all their esports staff. It's wild out here, man. I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
wild.
I mean, who saw it coming? I did. But whatever.
Sony didn't. You know what I'm saying? That was such a bad transition. All right, listen, ladies and gentlemen. PlayStation won't release any major first-party games before March 2025.
Oh boy.
That's right. Ollie Welsh over at Polygon wrote this. So Ollie says, Sony won't release any big first-party exclusive PlayStation 5 games in any of its existing franchises this year, or before the end of the next fiscal year in March 2025. The company admitted in its latest financial report. Quote, regarding first-party software, we aim to continue to focus on producing high-quality works and developing live service games, but while major projects are currently under development, we do not plan to release any new major existing franchise titles next fiscal year like God of War Ragnarok and Marvel's Spider-Man, said Sony President, COO, and CFO Hiroki Todeki.
Oh.
Ooh,
that's pretty good. We're getting
better.
Maybe we're moving up.
Sony has been quiet about its post-Spider-Man 2 slate, and Todeki's statement confirms suspicions that PS5 are facing a long gap in exclusives in its schedule, similar to that experienced by Xbox in 2022. That's on God. Xbox 2022. Woo! Where was the games, Mike?
Nowhere to be found.
Oh, man.
It's still basically the same way.
I was gonna say the inaugural year of the podcast, but it technically wasn't. COVID was the inaugural year. However, our stint, 2022, it was crazy. Insomniac's Wolverine game, for example, is known to be a long way off, with a recent hack revealing its projected release date to be 2026. Naughty Dog's next project is unknown, while its The Last of Us multiplayer game was scrapped. Yeah, dude, I totally forgot about the Wolverine game leaking, but yeah, that did happen. It's like just a straight up game is out there. For 2024, Sony is leaning on third-party publishers and developers to make up the shortfall. This month, we'll see the release of Square Enix's Final Fantasy VII Rebirth as a PlayStation 5 exclusive, while Sony has snapped up console exclusivity for Konami's Silent Hill 2 remake for later in the year. A recent state of play focused on these and other exclusive games from other studios, including Rise of the Ronin and Stellar Blade. Splashy first-party exclusives like the Horizon and God of War games are PlayStation stock and trade, so how come Sony is facing such a long gap between such releases? It could be for a number of reasons, simply bad scheduling luck, or the delayed effects of the production slowdown caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Todeki will be replacing Jim Ryan as interim CEO of SIE when Ryan leaves on April 1st. Seems to have an opinion on the culprit. On an investor call about the latest financial results, Todeki hinted that he felt PlayStation's in-house studios could be better ran when it comes to their business plans and development schedules. Wait, so you better come in here and just slice and dice, let's make these games?
I think so. Yeah, I really do think so. I think the whole reason why they're not coming out with these new games might be just they have restructuring going on in Sony since all this went down.
Yeah, very true. So, a couple paragraphs left. Let's go. People who work in the studios have very high motivation. They're very highly motivated, they're very good people, and they have great creative minds and knowledge of live streaming, Todeki said through a translator, as reported by VGC. However, having said that, when it comes to the business, I think there was room for improvement. And that's to do with how to use money and schedule of development, how to fulfill one's accountability towards development. Those are my frank impressions. Okay, Todeki. I will continue to engage in dialogue with the people so that we can find the right way to proceed. I mean, hey, I'm man's coming in here interim CEO. He about to try and go for that. He's like, it's like an interim head coach or like an interim GM of like a football
Yes.
team. It's like they
that's a
want to
good
try,
example.
they want to get the full time job, so it's like they try to do their best performance. I feel like this is gonna be the case. He's gunning for that main position. Regardless of the reason for it, a gap in big first party games will have an impact on the PlayStation business. PlayStation is having an enormously successful year. Gaming division reported a record quarter in terms of revenue, and PlayStation Network hit an amazing 123 million monthly active users. But Sony has lowered its aggressive forecast for PS5 sales in the financial year from 25 to 21 million units. And Todeki said he expected a gradual decline in PS5 sales starting in Sony's next fiscal year, partially due to entering the latter half of the console cycle. Todeki struck a notable cautious tone in these financial results compared to the habitual bullish Ryan. It seems even Sony is not immune to the gloom surrounding the game industry at the moment. Could some belt tightening and maybe even layoffs hit PlayStation 2's in their future? What to find out as Todeki assumes control on on April 1st.
Yeah, I think it's a transition, man. I think it's he's coming in, he's just got to assess the situation. Sit down and
Yeah,
go through all the different studios, what kind of games, what's the calendar look like, what do I want to do? And I mean, we're months away from him fully taking over. Although he's like day-to-day operations right now. And Jim
yeah,
Ryan is just getting ready to leave.
I'm sure. I mean, I think that passing of the torch is happening, if not already.
Already, yeah. I think it's already happened. Otherwise, why would he be making
The call,
yeah, why
yeah,
would he be
financial
making the
call.
call, right? Yeah, so I think this is just a sign of PlayStation putting a pause on everything to, okay, what's the vision? What are we trying to do here?
Yeah.
I think that's the goal.
Which, hey, man, more power to them. If they need to like take a second to kind of just say like, all right, let's plan out a little bit. Let's just kind of slow down for a second. I'm all for
Yeah.
it. That's kind
Facts.
of I feel like that's what kind of Xbox did in 2022. I mean, obviously we had that lull with like pandemic and everything. And I'm sure that all played a factor, but I'm hoping that Xbox took that time to just be like, all right, what are the next 5 years looking like? And then now we're starting to see the fruits of that, and we'll start to see more of that this summer, I think. So
Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea for PlayStation in general is just if they're worried about the sales of the PS5 going down or any other IPs for these like party games, they should start moving it over the first party games, they should start moving it over to PC. Like start making that transition sooner so
yeah,
that they can try to
it's
make
true.
some profit.
I mean, yeah, dude, I totally agree. I mean, look, I will just say this: Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
Sony needs an example
Yeah.
for bringing stuff to PC, but Helldivers
Helldivers
2. PS5, PC. Granted, not the smoothest launch ever. There's still a lot of issues, and there's
No.
like bugs and stuff like that. But we're seeing like insanely high player counts and people still actively going on to play. So it's a good game. And this is what happens when you cross release. This is why Xbox, like, it's so crazy. And I tweeted about this at Mr. J8 on Twitter. Pal World and Helldivers 2 released within 30 days of each other, and like they're both insanely successful, and they both are on PC and their respective console. I don't
Yes.
think it's a coincidence.
I don't think so either. I think that's just a sign of like where the market's headed,
Yeah,
what the industry is going to be going, and like this is going to be so much better for us as gamers.
yeah, for sure.
Like 5 years ago, I would never even thought a Pokemon knockoff game would come out. People would be outraged that it's a Pokemon knockoff game, and then the other people that are playing are like, "This is the best game I played in a long time."
Yeah, and they're hitting like million plus active players like in a day. It's
Yes,
like it's nuts.
like single player
You're beating
game.
CS:GO, single player
Yeah,
game.
yeah. These are like not PvP games at all. They're like co-op at
Yeah,
most.
exactly. Yeah.
PvE, really cool.
And yes, her player counts have died down, but still a great game, and I'm very excited. I logged in my 100 hours, and I'm probably gonna log in more whenever updates drop. So I'm excited. It's a fun game, dude.
Heck yeah,
We talked about Xbox, right, Mike?
yes sir.
We can go into a little more depth.
Yeah, we could. So I love always covering Game Rant and just anything that comes out of there because they usually talk about Xbox, and I enjoy what they are like. Phil Spencer is very bullish on what they're trying to do. So the title of this article is Phil Spencer confirms major Xbox Cloud gaming feature that is coming soon. Phil Spencer confirms that a major Xbox Cloud gaming feature announced half a decade ago is finally planned to roll out soon. This is from Dominic Bojnik Jack.
Ooh, see, I would have even tried the last name. I respect it.
I was trying the best. It's probably like Croatian or something. I have no idea. Eastern European. So going into this, Xbox Cloud Gaming should start allowing users to stream their own games sometime in 2024, according to Microsoft Gaming CEO Phil Spencer. Streaming en- enthusiasts, enthusiasts have been waiting for this feature to be added to the Xbox service since its earliest days, back when it was still called xCloud. It's still sometimes called xCloud, and I'm surprised this hasn't actually happened yet.
Yeah, no, for real.
Yeah. Streaming your own games. Okay, I guess that's the keyword, streaming your own games, because I know you can stream things from the cloud to any device. Like,
Yeah,
as long as it's on the Ultimate Game Pass.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, right. I think the idea
Yeah.
is like if you have a game in your library, you
Just
can
play it from your
play.
Xbox.
Yeah, you play it from your
Yeah.
Xbox, play it from your tablet. I don't know. Like,
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. So, the promise of its arrival dates back to November 2019 when X019 took place in London, just 1 month after Project xCloud entered public beta in the US, UK, and South Korea. The event saw Microsoft announce that its users would be able to stream both Game Pass titles and Xbox games that they already owned or will purchase starting in 2020. Whether because the global pandemic was hot on the heels of that promise or due to some other reason, the following year only saw the company launch xCloud for the Game Pass library, later expanding to its support to Fortnite. Okay, so they did half their mission.
yeah,
But hey, we'll see if we get it 4 days after the official announcement when we were supposed to get it, or 4 years after the official
yeah.
announcement. So Xbox Cloud Gaming should, keyword, start supporting streaming one's own games in 2024. Officially, Microsoft remains radio silent on the features to this day. Unofficially, a recent Xbox chat exchange between Phil Spencer and one inquisitive fan saw the former reveal that the ability to stream purchase games should finally launch sometime in 2024. While the executive did not elaborate on the matter any further, it's safe to assume that streaming one's own library via Xbox Cloud Gaming will still require an Xbox Game Pass Ultimate membership. That's not that surprising.
Look, can I just say the way this is announced is the most Phil Spencer way he could have
Oh
ever
yeah,
done.
dude.
Like
Oh
you're talking
yeah,
about the
dude.
guy who's playing Starfield, like, and while things are exploding
Dude.
at the company, and like he's a gamer, man. Like,
He is such a
like,
gamer, man.
it's the most. I love it, dude. It's the most Phil
Yeah,
Spencer thing ever.
I like to think Phil Spencer is authentic with his like his gamer like not rhetoric, his like persona as being a gamer because
Yeah,
like you just mentioned when all the original Xbox leaks came out, what 2-3 months ago, Phil
yeah.
Spencer's over here just playing Starfield. Like
Like it's
and
just
it
like,
yeah,
uh,
it's like things are blowing up and then a viral too is like everybody's trying to get in touch with Phil Spencer and then they look at his Xbox profile and it's like 3 hours playing Starfield. It's like
he's like, you know what? I'm just trying to enjoy some
I'm just trying
games.
to yeah,
Like, well, I'll deal with this in the morning, kind of thing. It's so good.
my man clocks out and he's done for the day. I love it. So this is actually going from a fan. This is the way the conversation went. Nicholas said, "Hey Phil, any word or update on being able to play my owned games in all caps on xCloud?" And then Phil responds, "Should be this year." He responded 8 minutes after the question. Nicholas says, "Thanks, man. Have a great night." Phil responds a minute later, "You too." It's
It's just like it's
and
just so funny. It's so nonchalant. He's like, "Yep,
oh yeah,
you too." like, yeah, should be
I
this
love
year.
it, man.
We'll see. Like, there was no extra language. Just should be this year. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
I love
it's
it.
being. I gotta love it. Gotta give him
Yeah,
credit.
dude, I love it.
Let's go. So, although the global pandemic likely didn't help speed up the process of adding this highly requested feature to the service, its ostensibility, dude, they're really hitting us with the SAT
Yeah,
words.
dude, these are, jeez.
Ostensibility, not solely responsible for its 4-year delay, The fact that the Microsoft's cloud gaming ambitious drew a lot of regulatory scrutiny following its early 2022 agreement to Activision Blizzard was plausibly to acquire Activision Blizzard was plausibly a much bigger factor influencing the company's reluctance to make any aggressive moves in this space. That actually makes some sense. They
Yeah,
had
it does
bigger
make
fish to
sense.
fry, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, they definitely.
And more context to go in context to go into this is other challenges that Microsoft have to overcome before it could allow users to stream their own game libraries aren't purely technical in nature. On the contrary, such offerings require a lot of legal legwork in the form of licensing agreements with third-party publishers. That is also why similar platforms like GeForce Now are adding new games on a monthly basis, as new agreements are reached instead of just allowing users to stream whatever they own. That's interesting. I
Yeah,
didn't even
dude.
think about that. So it's more of like a publishing issue at this point.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Yeah.
But it all comes back to that legal stuff, man. Same thing we covered first article with preservation. It's like it's hard to remake these games when you don't have the right legal footing off top. So
Yeah.
kind of affects everything. But yeah, I mean it makes sense. That's why we're never gonna get like these giant legally get these giant retro consoles with emulated games on them and all
Yeah,
that.
it's
'Cause
true. It's
just
like who
can't
gets
do it.
paid? How do you get paid? Like
That's all it comes down
yeah,
to.
it
Even though it's
really
like
is.
you shut down these markets, you can't even like sell the games anymore. At that point, look, I know
But
you
if you're
paid for it back
making
then.
money off of
Yeah,
it,
yeah, it done made you money already. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the new age. Like, come on, show this new generation.
people yeah, people still get paid though. People still
Yeah,
get
that's true.
paid. You know, if you like what, how many people there's like not even the Michael Jackson like foundation or whoever inherited his estate owns the rights to his music anymore,
Oh yeah, yeah, it's tossed
which is
around.
wild. Yeah, it's
He
like tossed around to somebody else.
he didn't he own Beatles like rights?
Yes.
Like it's just
Yes.
like insane to me. Like he owned their catalog. Like what? It's
Yeah.
just
Like the
wild.
Beatles are still alive.
Yeah, like two of
I
them,
mean,
right?
yeah.
That's just funny to me, man. Oh
Yeah,
man,
it's just licensing agreements, copyright, money, capitalism. Yeah,
lawyers, get your lawyers.
that's really what it is. It's all about the lawyers.
Lawyers. We talk about
Well,
money, right, Mike? Talk about money.
oh yeah, yeah. We could talk about
I mean,
losing or gaining. Which one do you want to talk about?
I mean, we're gonna end on a downer. That's all I'm saying. But
Back to scheduled programming.
It's in a programming.
Time to
But
get sad.
only positive though, it's not a layoff.
Hey,
Yeah.
thanks.
There you go. Listen,
I do think this one's more speculation than it is actual value.
yeah,
But,
more so.
yeah,
We'll
let's
go
get
through it
into
quick because we'll go through it quick. But this is another Game Rant article. Nick Rodriguez wrote this. Sony stock loses $10 billion in value. $10 billion. Sony stock value plummets following the company's revaluation of PlayStation sales and the reveal of additional physical financial data. So again, Sony has lost roughly $10 billion in stock value as shareholders reevaluate the company's investment promise in light of the adjusted PS5 sales forecast and lower than expected operating margins in the last fiscal quarter. This news follows Sony's controversial comments about the PS5 entering the latter stage of the life cycle, which prompted a wave of discontent among PlayStation users on social media. Despite outperforming Xbox's current generation consoles as a 2-to-1 ratio, it would appear that the PS5 did not meet Sony's expectations in the last quarter. Sony had previously indicated that it expected to ship 25 million PS5 units during the 2023 fiscal year, but winter quarter console sales have led the tech manufacturer to adjust this number to 21 million units. Sony CFO Hiroki Todaki, which we just mentioned in the previous article, explained that lower than expected values is a latter stage comment, asserting that the console would naturally begin to sell less. I talked about that a little bit already, we're expecting those consoles to kind of slow down. Sony stock takes a $10 billion hit due to lower projected sales and poor margins. As reported by CNBC, Sony stock has taken a dive, resulting in a calculated $10 billion loss in value. While the cut of the PS5's sales projections may have played a role in the devaluation, analysts are arguing that the operating margins for the company's gaming division are actually playing a more significant role. CNBC calculates that Sony's operating margins during the December quarter clocked in at just under 6%, a drop from more than 3% from the same period in 2022, and just half of the operating margins during the highly profitable January to March quarter of 2022. Sony's operating margins have declined. Analysts are describing Sony's margins as near decade lows. At the same time, Sony's game sales are looking good, as are the sales and digital content expansions, leading many to wonder what exactly is behind their surprisingly low margins. There could be a number of reasons for this, but software development costs have been identified as a potential factor, as the costs appear to be rising and haven't been offset by the lower costs associated with hardware development relative to 2020 and 2021. This is a notably low point for the company's stock value and could come as a shock to many, as the PS5 has seen such incredible success, maintaining a significant lead over Xbox and market share during this generation. As the PS5 gets more exclusives this year and Sony scales back spending on things like acquisitions, the stock value may be expected to stabilize. We're entering a low point with Sony, Mike.
I don't think so. I think the market in general, especially the AI market, like Intel, AMD, Nvidia, and like a bunch of other tech companies are down this week in the stock market. I think that has more to do with just like what correction is what the economists say in the overall
True.
stock market. I also think like the new CEO coming out and not being as bullish as the previous CEO has a lot to do with this.
Being a little
'Cause he's
honest,
being
yeah. Being a little
yeah.
honest, yeah.
Yeah, people that are trying to make money off stocks, they don't wanna hear that. They're going with trends. You
Yeah,
got a lot of
it's
day
true.
traders out there, a lot of, like, hedge fund managers doing day trades and stuff. It's like, you wanna hear the CEO be like, "We're having the greatest year of our time. We're 2.5 times better than, like, Xbox, our nearest competitor. Nobody's in sight."
Year
It's
over
like,
year, like freaking
year over
out.
year. Yeah, it's whatever it takes. So it's like him coming out and saying, okay, we might not get the same amount of sales we were expecting this year. We got tightening. There's not going to be any new games coming out. It's like, dude, why don't you just come out there and say, like, we're not making any money this year and you should short the stock? You know, it's like, come on,
Listen,
man.
it's gonna be a down point. Sell. Like, it's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be a down point. I think this is just people trying to speculate around new economic news being like earnings calls, reports to stockholders,
Yeah,
shareholders. So
so especially in video game, but we've seen in like the video game world, people listen to these shareholder calls
oh my
like a hawk,
gosh.
dude. Because like there's so much
Oh
minute
my
details you can pull, and
goodness.
like, is it GTA 6 coming out soon? Like that was like a huge
Yeah.
thing for a while. Now it's like Sony with this, like, yeah, it's nuts, dude.
Yeah, people are wild. I'm kind of thankful that we're not that crazy. We're kind of nuts, but we don't go like listening to earnings calls and
Yeah,
like
I
slow
like.
down. It's like, what did he actually mean? Like start doing psychoanalysis. Trying to
This thing.
it's
See, if
crazy.
we work for publication, Mike, it could be one of our assignments. Is we'd have to listen in on these calls.
Actually, that's a good
Oh
point. Yeah.
man,
If I
it's
was their
wild.
job, I would do it, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't even know. Like, do you have free access to those calls, or do you have to like pay a fee? Like, I don't even know how you. Because I know
It
there's
depends.
like sometimes there's a way. I think like Microsoft used to make theirs public or something. I don't know.
It depends. I think most of the time, if you want the live access, you have to have some type of share amount. So whatever
I
that
see. I
value
see.
is,
Yeah.
it's usually sent in like an email to the shareholders. Let them know, like, hey, come join us. If you have a certain amount of like the percentage, you're able to speak. That's when they do like obviously shareholder meetings. You get to talk to the
Yeah.
CEO or earnings team. So because people want to know where their money's going, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's part of it, and then you have a whole other situation where it's just I think they do sometimes publish the overall reports on their website like a couple of days later, because they don't want to have like the market freak out just because the
Yeah.
CEO says something stupid real quick,
Yeah. It could be
Never.
volatile, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
So,
I don't know. I'm curious to see like how how interim CEO does, because this is an interesting start to just be like open and honest about what he thinks like it's gonna be, and like, oh, we actually need to make improvements. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and like blow smoke. Like, there's obviously areas we can improve on, but
yeah, he's
yeah,
probably just trying to set the tone, man, because it's like he is now the captain of the ship.
yeah. Hey,
And
look,
with a new
more.
captain, new voice, man.
I mean, hey, I'm
Own
all
it.
for it. I'm in support.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
honest. So
Just give me a TV with the freaking PlayStation in it. That's all I want.
come on,
That's all I want.
Todeki. That's all we want. I really hope I
It
said
really
this
is.
man's name right. I may be disrespecting this whole time.
I
Sorry.
think it would be funnier if you never said his name correctly. Just like
Tata
no,
Tataki.
It's just an
Oh,
ongoing
man.
meme.
Oh, dude. Listen, Sony, I think they'll survive Mike in the end, you know?
Oh, dude, are you kidding me? Sony doesn't. They
I think we'll
got
be all right.
products, dude. Yeah, they're gonna be just fine, man. They're gonna be just fine. You
Mike,
know what?
they have a controller with modular sticks in it. You think they're not going to be okay? You're insane.
I I know. I have it. I own it.
Oh man.
I think that's it for our week's news. You know, one other thing that was kind of breaking that I saw today was Vizio, which my lovely TV
Oh
back
yeah,
here,
yeah, yeah.
top of the line
I have
TV.
one
I
of them.
used to,
I have one of them joints in the other room.
yeah. The gorgeous thing about Vizio, man, when they first started, the I don't remember. I think they were from either Georgia Tech, MIT, or some other like really prestigious engineering
Yeah.
school. They were professors. They decided to create like new TVs like this, and they were top of the line. They're better than everybody else. They were made in the United States, and they sold cheaper than most people or most companies, most manufacturers, and they became super successful. You know what they announced today? Walmart's buying them out, $2.5 billion or something like
Get
that.
that payday, man.
Oh yeah, I don't even know if it's the same owner, like still entrepreneur running it or inventor, if you want to call him. But I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
don't know how
cool.
I feel about like Walmart owning the brand now, though,
Yeah,
and
it'll
I
be
don't even think
interesting.
Vizio's been that good in a while.
Yeah,
I think they
dude.
lost their
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, one of the first TVs my parents got, which I like still have in the other room, it was like a Vizio, and it was an HD Vizio, but it was like it was pretty fat. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't like yeah,
that sucker's fat and
yeah.
he's heavy.
It's probably a similar one that you got. It's a pretty big one. It's not a thin one by any means, but yeah, but like it was like I don't know, there's something about it, but I just like it was like a nice little like about 30, maybe it's like 38, 40 inch or something like that. It was a decently small
Yeah,
TV, but yeah. Um, but yeah, so
yeah, they last
I
forever and they're really good.
yeah, I have a fondness for Vizio in that regard. I have nostalgia with it.
Same,
So it's
same.
awesome.
But my future is probably going to be an LG or a Samsung.
On God.
Just
Samsung
that's what
TV.
it is.
You best believe this
Yeah,
65
dude.
inch I got. Samsung baby, you best believe.
That's gonna be the next one. I'll actually take the Insignia, which is a Best Buy brand, Insignia in the other room,
Yeah.
put it in this one, and go get like a 65-inch Samsung. Unless
Nice,
Sony,
man.
Sony, if you're listening, if I can get that PS5 Sony TV, that'd be sick. I'd do that in a
Heard this
heartbeat,
man's copping instantly.
instantly, without question. Cop it faster than I cop my brand
Dude.
new Samsung S24 Ultra right here.
All I'm gonna say is if that TV ever drops, it is gonna be the greatest episode we've ever made. That's all I'm gonna say. It will be the best.
I
Dude.
will if it drops and it's like a surprise job on sale, I will show up and do an unboxing episode. For
Oh,
sure.
dude, it's going up as a segment. Let's go.
Yeah, you're gonna tell me just like, "Hey, Mike, we're still recording tonight, right?" And I'm just gonna be like, "Yeah, I just gotta make a stop on the way home."
Dude,
Just show up
oh,
like 30 minutes late with a giant knife, like for box cut and open it.
oh, man.
I would be so excited.
I know. Speaking of content, I know you've been making TikToks lately. I've been seeing them TikToks,
Oh yeah,
man.
dude.
Seeing you
Dude,
doing good.
I'm having more success on the YouTube versions though, you know?
Not really.
Same exact ones. I post them on YouTube and I'm like getting thousands of views and I'm like, dude, this is nice. Please subscribe so I can start streaming.
Mad Mike
Like,
will eat you.
yeah. I had to add the TV because I got numbers at the end of the name because my OG Mad Michael Eat You account is still in existence. All my
Damn.
goal is, dude, all my goal is give me enough subscribers so I can get my own content manager at YouTube. And that gives me direct content to say, like, hey, give me my old account back.
Yeah, right. I need
Please.
that. Damn, boy.
Yeah, there's no way to get it. It's 2004 account or something like that.
OG. OG.
So,
When YouTube
so,
started.
yeah, man. So old. Maybe it's 2006, something like that. And then I got an old Twitch account too. Crazy, man. I'm old now. I'm
OG.
45 years old. Not really.
This guy.
Nah.
But listen,
Yeah.
I know you got a little trip coming up, so I'm excited for you. Get a little week of relaxation.
That's a fact, dude. I gotta continue packing, man. I gotta get to it. I'm
Yeah.
not done.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we gotta let these people
let's
go.
wrap it up, dude. We gotta wrap it
Yeah.
up.
Do you have anything to add before I do the usual closeout?
Nah, man. I think good week. We're recording a little early, so it's definitely
We
early
are,
in the
yeah.
week, but we'll get it out. to you out there. I'll just get it out to y'all. You already know.
By the way, next week, for the people that are listening to this when this episode drops on Friday, we are not covering Nintendo Direct yet. So hopefully there's no this is not like I'm leaving the day of the Nintendo Direct, so we couldn't record it. So next week, let's do it. Let's do a review, maybe a reaction, see what other people are saying about it, and we'll cover that. So
Yeah.
Anyways, I'll hit you with the usual. If you guys liked any of the articles, you want to check them out for yourself, give contributions to the art, like to the writers and everything like that. Links are in the description below. We have tiny URLs. Click them. You'll be right there on the point. You'll see it. And comment, like, subscribe, follow us on whatever platform you feel like following us. And we appreciate you listening. I'm Michael Anthony. This is Kyle Heath. And this is the M2 Podcast. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.
Keep gaming,
Peace
everyone.
out. Adios. See you.